Look, I mean, we could think about this. One of the things that I've found very interesting about looking at archetypal representations of experiential reality is that they're always balanced. And so the fundamental archetypal representation of the hierarchy is the wise king and the tyrant. And every hierarchy can be reasonably represented with narratives involving the wise king and the tyrant. So the wise king is the part of the hierarchy that sustains itself and expands and includes more people, right? So that's a functioning polity. And the tyrant is the fact that people operating within that hierarchy can play zero-sum games, can be willfully blind, can be malevolent, can play politics, can cease to be productive, can manipulate the system for their own devices, and all of that. And it's obviously the case that every human institution, especially as they scale, falls prey to the tyrannical part of the archetype. That's why big things fall apart. Yeah. And so when you say, well, to what degree is a hierarchy, to what degree does a hierarchy emerge because of tyrannical factors? The answer is, well, it depends on the hierarchy, but generally a non-trivial amount that scales with size. Okay. But that, having said that, that doesn't, to say that something is partially corrupt is a lot different than saying that it's totally corrupt, right? There's this great story, for those of you that don't know it, in the Brothers Karamazov and the atheist Ivan, who's the most compelling character, I would say, most charismatic character in the book, is torturing his younger brother Alyosha, who's a monastic novitiate, about religion and dogma and God. And he's trying to convince Alyosha that if there is a God, he's so cruel that he's reprehensible in his fundamental element. And anyways, he tells this story about the Catholic Church, and it's called the Grand Inquisitor. It's a very, very famous story. And in this story, Christ comes back to earth, to Seville in Spain, at the height of the Spanish Inquisition. And he reappears and he's doing miraculous things and, you know, dividing up the loaves and feeding the poor and healing the sick and being miraculous and wonderful. And the Grand Inquisitor, who runs the Spanish Inquisition, promptly has him arrested and throws him in prison. And then he decides he's going to be executed, and he comes to visit him at night, and he says, look, you know, you were here 1,500 years ago, and you were perfect, and you put a moral burden on human beings that was way too great for anyone to carry, and it's taken us 1,500 bloody years to cobble together something out of your insanely positive example that normal human beings could live with, and we finally got it a little bit under control and dampened it down, and here you are back again, like setting up an impossible example for people. We just can't have that. We're going to do you in tomorrow. And Christ listens and is not particularly upset by all appearances about what's happening. And then the Inquisitor, who's an old man, gets up to leave. And when he leaves, Christ stands up and kisses him on the lips. And the Inquisitor turns white with shock and then leaves. And when he leaves the door open. And that's the brilliant part of the story, and that's what made Dostoevsky such an amazing genius, I would say, is even though he could write a critique of the Catholic Church, let's say, the Christian Church, as powerful and as intelligent as the Grand Inquisitor, he also noticed that the dogmatic structure of the Church still left the door open for the divine individual.